Howdy, folks. Welcome to Grounded, a HomeLand Properties Roundtable Podcast, where we discuss land, timber, real estate, and everything in between.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Grounded Podcast. My name is Mikayla Burris. I'm an agent at HomeLand Properties, and we are over in Bryan College Station today, joined with Capital Farm Credit here, and they are some lenders, and they specialize in the farm and ranch industry and financing and all the good things. So we are going to let them introduce themselves, and we'll start over here.
Hello, my name is Anthony Vaughan. I work out of our Winnie Credit Office, primarily taking care of farmers and their operating loans, as well as some real estate loans.
Hello, I'm Andy Frazier. I'm out of the Conroe office. I primarily focus on real estate loans and can help with any kind of farm and ranch activities.
And I'm Josh Krupa. I'm the regional vice president within the Houston market, so I get to work with these guys on a daily basis, and I'm based here in Bryan.
Yeah, so we are really excited to be here today. We get to do a lot of hand-in-hand projects with these guys, a lot of stuff, obviously in the real estate, and we sell land, and they help with that, so that's great. But the cool thing about them is that they can kind of follow their clients and help them out with a lot of other stuff, right? I mean, y'all do equipment loans and all kinds of things, so talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. No, we, just as you said, we offer various different loans within agriculture, equipment loans, whether it's any kind of tractor or construction type of equipment that they may need to clear a piece of land or to change the terrain. Also, any kind of loans that if somebody wants to start a cattle operation, we can lend on cattle, the cattle operation, and help provide assistance with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I just say we like to be a relationship lender. So whether they're buying a piece of property, buying some cattle, buying a piece of equipment, you name it, we want to be a full-stop shop for them. So we offer those products. We offer insurance services as well. So long-term relationship, we don't want to be there just at the front end. We want to be there along the way.
Yeah, we'll go into it a little bit. I kind of want to hear y'all's mission statement, kind of what types of loans y'all do offer, just to give them a good variety. And talk about how you differ from maybe some other lenders or just some special packages that y'all offer.
Sure. So our mission is to be the best provider of rural financing needs to rural Texas. We're the largest ag lender in the state of Texas. We've got roughly 60 plus offices across the state, 600 plus employees headquartered here at Bryan College Station. We, again, specialize in rural finance, including agriculture loans for true production, farmers with their operations, to people buying a weekend place for real estate needs, help them build that dream house, help them expand their cattle operation, those types of operational needs.
We also, work with the next generation farmer. So some of these people that are transitioning the family farm, we help the next generation, get into the picture and into the program from a financial aspect, as well as help some of the youth today finance their ag projects.
Okay, yeah, that's great. We love working with these guys. They're usually able to solve a lot of issues for us, and that's what we love most about them, is that they're real big problem solvers. So a lot of times when we run into something, and a lot of people don't know, is that most of the time when you go to buy a raw piece of property, a lot of people think they can go to their local bank, or maybe they can go to the same person who gave them a mortgage on their home, but that is not the case. Or not always the case. So I want you guys to talk a little bit about that and how y'all differ, or how a loan on land might differ from a mortgage.
Sure. So when we look at that, we have different opportunities with those land loans. Kind of like a mortgage, we can go anywhere from 5 years out to 30 years. We can structure the loan to fit the borrower's needs. Capital Farm Credit is a cooperative. We hold and service all of our loans here in-house. So whenever the borrower closes on a loan, they're not done with us. So they can if they want to sell off a piece of property and have a release from that, or as rates come down here, hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll be able to go in and reduce those rates and all that as well, working through the entire relationship, as Josh said, with the borrower from the beginning to the end. We're also a cooperative, so whenever we do a loan with a borrower, we pay back our profits every year to our borrowers through what we call our patronage program. So that kind of helps to reduce that rate and helps to reduce that effective rate on the loan at the end of the day.
Okay. And what areas do y'all work in? I know y'all cover a pretty large area. So how many counties, what areas is it in Texas are we talking about?
Yeah, so we basically cover majority of the state with the exception of the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Okay.
So in farm credit, you have territories, and so that's our primary territory. Now, if someone lives within an area, say they're close to Conroe or they're close to Winnie and they're wanting to buy anywhere in the state, we can help them with that. We've even done some out-of-state loans. If it makes sense and it's efficient for the customer, we're going to try to help them with that.
Okay, great. Yeah, so moving on a little bit, I want to talk about our relationship as agents and at HomeLand Properties and how our relationship has grown over the years with Capital Farm Credit and you. So if y'all want to talk a little bit about your experience and how that worked out. And
Sure. I'll take this one. So I've been with Capital for just right at 20 years now. And one of the first people I met when I came on board was Andy Flack. We went to the office and met with Andy and the rest of the folks at HomeLand. And since then, that relationship existed before I was here, but we've grown it and it's evolved and new agents have come in. And one of our core values is family. We've grown considerably. I mentioned 600 plus employees, but we really do value that family-like atmosphere. And I feel like we have that in common with you guys. And it feels comfortable when we're working deals or we're together, whatever it may be, if we're out at an event or networking. And I think that trust and level of respect we've built through the relationship over the years is really, it helps us work together and it ultimately for the customer too, and the buyer or the borrower. I was telling these guys, one thing I've always loved about HomeLand is the access to information. I could always lean into you guys for access early on to maps and location topo maps for our appraisal team. It helped us identify any needs for an easement or how access was going to look. So it ultimately gave us a more efficient, streamlined process to get the appraisal done faster and maybe close before our closing deadline. So always part of the relationship that I've valued.
yeah, I think it's so important in deals to have a good relationship between your agent and your lender. A lot of times, if your agent and your lender aren't talking, I mean, it can really crush a timeline there, especially in a contract where you have a quicker closing date or a 21-day financing period. I mean, really, we all need to be working as a team to stay on top of that. And I think that we definitely have a great relationship with not only y'all, but a lot of the people that fall under Capital Farm Credit. So we definitely appreciate y'all a lot and are happy to anytime that we get to work with y'all. Does anybody have any, maybe like some specific stories or success stories or things that have happened?
Yeah, I think that, kind of talking like what Josh mentioned, that working with HomeLand, y'all are always on top of everything. Whenever we get ready to go order an appraisal, y'all are always sending over comps of here's what we're using to value the property. So we're able to quickly pass that along to our appraisers. They're able to turn around that appraisal as quick as they can. They evaluate that information as well, so it helps us. Y'all always do a great job of kind of vetting a lot of the potential buyers before they come across to us. So we're able to look at some of that and know up front that this is somebody that we definitely have an opportunity to work with. And so that helps me out a lot. And it helps me to feel good to know that I can send people back to y'all and they're going to be treated fairly as well. I know I've sent quite a few borrowers back over to HomeLand whenever they're looking to buy, whether that's personal friends or customers of mine as well. So I've worked both ways there.
Yeah, you mentioned something and it made me think. So a lot of times when we have a pretty large inventory at HomeLand. So we get a lot of leads, a lot of first-time land buyers, first-time property buyers. and they kind of always ask what step one is, and we usually tell them to get a pre-approval. It helps us out. It helps them out. That way we can narrow down their search. And then, of course, when we do find something that they're looking for, we can move quickly because we already have that pre-approval in hand. So usually we kind of send them y'all's way right at the kick after we talk to them. So tell me if does that line up with kind of what y'all's first step is? Is that a helpful process when people have a pre-approval? Does that line where y'all are at?
Absolutely. I think that definitely makes it easier on the borrower, and they go into something knowing what to expect instead of finding something and then figuring out what hurdles they may have to jump, if there is any hurdles to speak of in those situations. So, in our application process here at Capital is a pretty streamlined application process. For the most part, many of our loans are approved just off of W-2s and pay stubs, maybe a personal financial statement, but majority of the loans are approved just off that little bit of an information and, a one-page application.
Mm-hmm. So what qualifications does a property need to have to where we should send them y'all's way? Like, is there an acreage amount? Talk about some stuff like that.
So the good thing about Capital Farm Credit is we have options for any size acreage. So as long as it's something that we can call a rural property, be a half acre all the way up to a couple thousand acres, we're able to help with that no matter what size that is. We have a home site team that can help if somebody's just wanting to build a home on that property. We can do the construction loans and all of that as well. And then we can also help with somebody that's wanting to buy that lifelong ranch that they've always dreamed of. So that family property.
Yeah, we view ourselves as trusted advisors. That's what we want to be to our customers. And we want to be subject matter experts. So if they're buying a large timber tract in East Texas, we have that on our team. If they have complicated financials, we've got sophisticated credit team members at Capital. So to Anthony's point, we can get someone pre-approved in less than an hour if we need to, or if it's complicated financials because they own a lot of companies, we deal with that all day too. So we're prepared, ready to deliver an answer as quick as possible. And to your earlier question, it is helpful. We like to talk to people early on. We like to educate on how we do differ because it is different from, say, your first home buy. And so being able to set those expectations early is critical for us, and I know the same for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely helps us out a lot. And again, it always feels great to be able to send some buyers over y'all's way and then y'all send them right back. And if it feels like we've already kind of established that team base to get them through to the finish line. So once we get them approved or pre-approved for a loan, we get out there, we start showing on properties, and then say we move forward, we've finished negotiations, we're ready to submit the contract to the title company, all signed and executed. So from there, I want us to talk a little bit about how we work together through that process and kind of the things that we do on our end and the things that y'all do on your end to get it all the way to the finish line and what that timeline kind of looks like. I know for us over at HomeLand, we kind of have an expectation of us that as soon as we get a signed contract, we'll just so me personally, as soon as I get that signed contract, I get it over to the title company, and then I immediately create an email conversation between me, the lender, and the buyer. Just so we're all in communications, I kind of outline the dates and, what our financing days are, what our closing date is, when the survey is due, and then what happens from there. Once y'all receive that contract and y'all take it over, what are y'all's first steps?
Sure. So our first steps would be getting that contract in. We'll notify the title company that we're going to be the lender on that loan and on that deal. Then we're going to pull all of our information together to order our appraisal. Mm-hmm. Most of the time we're working with in-house appraisers, so we're going to identify which appraiser that's going to be, get that ordered, and notify them of the timeline. That's where y'all sending over the comps helps us as well, so we can provide as much information we can to the appraisers, so that they can get that turned around for us. Typically, we can get those turned around in a 2 to 3 week time period, and then depending on the title company, they can get that turned around fairly quick as well. And we can usually meet that 30-day closing period that a lot of people shoot for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think that we do a lot behind the scenes that maybe our clients don't know, which is great. I mean, if I was out there buying property, that's what I would be wanting of somebody that, I hired and am trusting with my finances and to go out there and search. So it's really nice to be able to work together, and we kind of work simultaneously on different things, but we're all one big team, us and the title company. And so it's really interesting to hear y'all's side of it, and I kind of wanted y'all to share a little bit about what y'all do behind the scenes as well. So
I can speak to something real quick. Working with Karen right now on a deal, and like you said, we set expectations up front. We outlined what the time frame was going to be. There was a new survey being completed, so we knew that time frame as well. We were able to get the appraisal order. That was done subject to the survey being finished. I think it was last week the survey came back. There was one discrepancy in the legal description. Got a hold of Karen. She got a hold of the surveyor. We had it the next day. Title company's already been able to update their title work, so we never missed a beat to stay on track for closing, which will be, I think, next week. But for the customer, we didn't even have to communicate that, hey, there was no need for them to know that. And so, to continue delivering that smooth, great experience for them. Like you said, we're moving and adjusting things behind the scenes, but it's nice to work with a partner that understands and reciprocates that.
Yeah, no, we absolutely agree. I think we're on the same page. I think most of the time we work together, it ends up crossing the finish line and being a good deal. So we're happy to keep doing it and moving forward. All right, so we've talked about a lot of success stories, and thankfully that's usually how our deals end. But I want to move into a little bit and talk about maybe some challenges in the lending world, or maybe some misconceptions that borrowers call y'all about, or maybe some questions or different routes that they need to take. Just anything that y'all are willing to share about how y'all have been able to kind of overcome some steps, or what kind of things y'all can offer to really get people to where they want to be.
Yeah, Josh, go ahead and speak about that if you don't mind. And a lot of people think getting, a secondary mortgage or rural financing is pretty difficult.
Yeah. So a lot of people may not be familiar with farm credit, and so we educate them on that. And some may think you have to put more money down, or it's restrictive terms, or it takes a long time to get a deal closed because it's unimproved or it doesn't have any improvements on it. And so it's good for us to be able to have those conversations and talk about, hey, we can lend up to 85% in some instances. So little money down. If plans are for a long-term hold, we've got long-term financing. Andy touched on terms going out to 30 years. We've got a variety of fixed rate opportunities too. So it's really packaging the loan to whatever that customer's need is. So if it's short-term, we can do that. If it's long-term, we've got that. If they want to put it in an entity or family partnership, we see that all the time. Another thing I was thinking about is title issues, surveys, and easements. A lot of that doesn't come into play when you're buying a house in a neighborhood. And so, again, being that trusted advisor, subject matter expert with you guys, we can talk to, hey, here's what that means about that pipeline easement. Here's the kind of easement you need for access if it's landlocked. Here's what this title exception means, or this is how we will work with the title company to move past that so we can get you to the closing table. It's that kind of interaction. For me, I've built several houses, and it's just a different experience. You're not having those discussions usually with your mortgage lender. It's more of a hands-off, here's your closing date, here's this. And for us, it's, again, that relationship piece comes back in the picture, that we want to have those conversations from start to finish. And we're problem solvers, so we want to get in. We want to understand what's out in front of us with those surveys, with the title company, with the exceptions that may be in title work, and we want to figure out how to get around those to get to that closing table.
Yeah, you bet. It's, I just finished up some hurdles, and the survey on that piece of property that was sold in East Texas, it was, I think, from the 40s. Mm-hmm. It was the last time it had changed hands, and it's been in the family forever, and they decided it was time to sell some of it. And, there was access issues and other things like that we had to work around, but it's just something you do in rural America.
Yeah, I think, too, it speaks volumes when we see that issue, or we know there's a complicated survey that's needing to be done, so we can set that realistic expectation around closing, too. Sure. So we're not artificially setting a date, setting expectations to be broken down. If we know there's a complicated piece of property, say it's got a river for a border, well, that's going to take longer to survey than just a normal tract. So identifying those things early and then communicating it is huge for the process and for the relationship and experience.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you all so much for sharing. And it's really great to hear what y'all go through and how hard y'all work. And so it really definitely opens our eyes up to some things that we might run into some issues. And you're like, well, hold on, it's going to take a few days. And we're like, well, we're stressing on our end. And so it's great to hear that y'all are able to overcome a lot of those hurdles and get those problems solved for those borrowers. So, but yeah, we can just recap a little bit on what we talked about today, kind of what y'all want to add, if y'all want the listeners to know anything else about y'all or what y'all offer, or maybe what specific areas y'all individually cover. I know we talked about that a little bit, but how they can contact you, how they can reach out, what that process looks like.
Yeah, so I'll jump in here. We're all part of the Houston market. So we cover the north and eastern side of Houston, and then the rest of our Houston team encompasses the rest of Houston. So if anyone has any questions at all, we can provide that contact information, but we work as a team. So wherever the person is located and it makes the most sense, we probably have an office close by, and we would support them working with whoever is closest.
Easy way to find us is, on the web.
Yeah.
Go to our website to find the office closest to you. And just one other thing I'd like to add is, we're sitting here talking about buying property in rural America and things like that, and rural property. And a lot of people think that you've got to be a farmer or somebody wanting cattle to buy rural property. But that also includes recreational type land, whether it's hunting land or, you just want a cabin in the woods to just get out of the city. That works for us.
Yeah. And I would just encourage anyone that is interested or hasn't ever explored it, give us a call. We're happy just to talk through the ins and outs of what we do and what rural property looks like. And if they need the loan, awesome. If not, we're happy to provide anything we can to anyone.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, Josh. Just reach out. We're here to help. We're here to answer questions and do whatever we can, whether we're closing a loan or at least just giving advice. That's what we're doing as a trusted advisor.
Yeah, I'll tell y'all, like I said earlier, we get a lot of leads and we send a lot of people these guys' way just based on a first initial contact. And so we always hear great feedback from our clients and our buyers. We're always super appreciative of the guidance that they're willing to provide them. I mean, sometimes we get a call and we start working with a buyer and it may be 1.5 to 2 years down the road before we're finally able to settle in and get them to purchase something and just find what they're looking for. And it's very comforting to know that y'all are still around when we do get there, and y'all are still ready to, y'all are staying updated on the process and ready to help out when we do get there. So we definitely appreciate y'all and appreciate y'all letting us come and join. And so I want to thank you guys so much for listening, and they gave you a way to get in contact with them, or you have all of our information on here. So if you want to reach out to us and say, hey, how do I get a hold of one of them again? I mean, we're happy to share their information. So these guys are great professionals. They're wonderful to work with. And like I said, they specialize in the rural farm and ranch sales. So definitely somebody that we're in the office with quite a bit. So thank you all so much for listening, and thank you all for allowing us to come and hang out with you guys for a little bit. And yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. All right. Everybody wave.